Hello and welcome to Recommerce Podcast, the podcast where we talk all things recommerce and circular businesses. Today we are focusing on agentic commerce, so something that has been on news lately as OpenAI and Stripe released Agentic Commerce Protocol, where the idea is to bring commerce into the world of AI and LLMs. Today I'm joined by Tuomo Laine, the CEO and co-founder of Twice Commerce. Welcome.
Thank you, Karri. I'm happy to be the recurring guest here.
Nice to have you here. But yeah, let's start from the basics. So what is agentic commerce?
Yeah, agentic commerce, basically, I would simplify it by saying that it is a way of allowing your end customers to buy from you via applications like ChatGPT or other agentic like AI platforms. The benefit of that kind of purchasing from the end user's perspective is that they can do maybe an easier job when it comes to comparing items or kind of products and listings against each other. So they go further in the sales process with the AI platform, so that usually in the form of a chat. And then when they land into the line of purchase decision, agentic commerce enables them to purchase that item inside that chat rather than directing the customer to your website. So it's kind of just a way of allowing customers to buy more easily inside a AI platform like ChatGPT.
Okay, so it's bringing the same logic that you are using already, like ChatGPT, that you don't have to use exact filters or anything like that, and it's more conversational and hopefully picks up what you are actually looking for, even if you don't know the exact words or filters.
Exactly. It's a more immersive way. If you compare that to like a classic Googling options, instead of having to land into many different websites to compare things, you can actually do the purchase inside the ChatGPT session that you have. So you can even do the checkout there.
Is the idea or current situation that you are doing the actual purchase inside there, or is it actually replacing like more touch points like returns and order management, or is it just basically that one interaction, like where you purchase it and then it kind of moves into this legacy old school, like maybe link to you to online store or email communication or something like that?
I think, well, that probably differs a lot when it comes to different AI platforms. So maybe it's worthwhile to kind of state some of the key players currently at the kind of time of this recording. There's OpenAI and Stripe, and I would say Shopify are probably the key players now behind here. So OpenAI as the kind of, one could say, leading AI platform, and they're, of course, their product being ChatGPT in this context. Stripe as the payment service provider, providing the payment technology to be able to kind of use different payment options from credit cards to Apple Pay and so on. Also playing a role when it comes to shipping details and so on. And then we have Shopify, kind of the largest commerce platform out there. So bringing in a large merchant base of customers whom like product feeds can be showcased and hosted inside the ChatGPT session. So if we think about where do we draw the lines, I think currently looking at the concepts and maybe some early implementations, it seems that the key criteria that the Agentic Commerce Protocol would help with is that it enables discoverability. So meaning that if you've shared your product feed, so essentially your catalog with OpenAI or any other player, your products can be discoverable by that AI platform to be able to be showcased inside that chat session for the end user. Then what they help with the combination of Stripe or any other PSP that supports agentic commerce, but currently I think Stripe is kind of the forerunner here.
And PSP is payment
service provider, yeah. So they then help to kind of process the checkout inside the AI platform. So among the kind of in the middle of this chat, you can kind of see the product, make the decision that I want to buy it, and they have enabled the technology to do a checkout there. Even if this customer hasn't yet attached their payment details into ChatGPT, you can kind of still have like a hosted checkout inside the ChatGPT. Now, and that checkout technology might help with things like shipping and kind of doing all of these things. Now, well, Shopify's roles in all of this might have been that they just make it super easy for Shopify merchants to share their products to be discoverable in this session. Now, then your question about, well, who handles things like order confirmations, payment receipts, returns, all of these like potential follow-up actions. I think this is where players like Shopify or Twice then does the heavy lifting or do the heavy lifting that they're already now doing in purchase experiences where they actually host it kind of end to end. So this means that after a successful checkout inside the chat session, it is still the platform like Twice or Shopify who catches that kind of checkout, creates an order for that inside the Commerce OS, and based on that provides order confirmations, and in case there's any problems with it, whether it's returns or planned return in case of a rental, they then handle those. So I at least haven't yet seen examples where the agentic commerce would also be handling a more long-term life cycle of an order where it would handle reverse logistics or returns. So I think the current focus in agentic commerce is really on the kind of initial purchase and not so much of the potential follow-up stages.
Okay, so the initial phase is basically discoverability and maybe enabling the users to do some comparison and find the item and maybe do the checkout already inside ChatGPT, but then it's pretty much the same workflow from the user's perspective and from merchant's perspective, even if they purchased it from regular online store.
Yeah, exactly. I think to simplify from the merchant's perspective, one could just consider these agentic commerce opportunities, like being able to buy, sell stuff inside a ChatGPT session as a new sales channel. That's pretty much it. It's an extra sales channel that has certain characteristics that make it super interesting. One of them being that it tends to have a lot higher conversion rate due to the nature of the AI platforms, where the customers do a deeper due diligence on the purchasing in the form of the discussion with the AI agent. So if you're able to be discoverable there and kind of as one of the options that the AI agent would recommend to the customer, there's a high likelihood of conversion.
Okay. And probably going to bring similar dynamic to what we are actually seeing on our website, where you still do the registering for if you want to start a new Twice account. We can see that through Google compared to like ChatGPT, I think it's around 5 times more likely the conversion, but the number of people actually visiting that is lower because they are doing a lot more on the, let's say, the beginning of the purchase process. They are actually doing it inside ChatGPT.
Yeah, they are high intent buyers. It's likely that when they see your product, they have a very high intent in actually buying one. So enabling them to act upon that inside the ChatGPT session is most likely good for your business, I'd say. But kind of if you just think about it as a sales channel, I think it allows you to then do more strategic decisions when you go to platforms like Shopify or Twice, where you might want to manage your listings or products and their pricing or their availabilities per the sales channel, because there are benefits, but there's always costs to each sales channel. Everyone knows that if you use like a booking platform, they might charge a quite high fee for a sale that comes via that channel. So I think a similar dynamic is in place. So there's the benefits and then there's some costs to it. Because of course, if someone's doing a super good job in bringing new sales to you, they probably want their share out of it at some point. So that's kind of why I would like to consider those as sales channels that you want to enable. You want to be visible in that channel. Similar that you want to be visible in Google product cards. You want to be visible in ChatGPT or other agentic commerce opportunities. But you probably want some control on how you're visible there.
Yeah, absolutely. And what comes to my mind from merchants' perspective is how transparent this sales channel is, because we know that, for example, Google gives you like really nice data, like what is your rank in Google search, and then you can try to optimize and show that. But is there something, or is there going to be something similar in like the agentic commerce world? Like, are you able to get some kind of feedback, like how many people are actually discussing with your products, or actually even seeing those, or is it that you just get sales or you don't, then you have to try to do something else? And maybe also the incentive from the agentic provider or ChatGPT, for example, like why are they showcasing your product? What if you have the same product in 2 different stores? Are they showcasing cheapest price for the customer, or the best deal that they have where they get the highest commission, and kind of that transparency? And
I think that's why kind of considering it as its own sales channel is probably the right way to go about it. So to comment on a few things, like let's say that if it's your only sales channel, that might be questionable or scary due to the fact that it is probably still a kind of a black box, even more of a black box than maybe some like Google products, because it might be that these providers themselves aren't like discreetly able to describe why the language model chose to promote your product over someone else's product or similar. So everyone can look at the results and build some analytics out of that. So kind of test run things, do test queries, and say, were you visible or not? The platforms themselves kind of have visibility to everything, so they might be able to kind of say that you are visible in 70% of these kind of things. So they might be able to productize something like your rank, but the actual ranking, like it's so probabilistic, the underlying technology, so it's really hard to systematically maybe control it. Of course, the platform providers, similar how they build moderation tools, they can probably build layers on top of it that checks the initial result and then kind of blocks it or asks the model to do something else based on what they would like to prefer. So I think there's like, I can see ways and mechanisms how like pay to win patterns might come about so that you can kind of pay to be visible there. But maybe I would kind of say that based on what's available now and, general rumors or whatnot, the safe bets from the merchant side of things at the end of the day is super similar than what you would like to do anyways. So in order to be visible in any of these kind of channels, whether it's Google products or OpenAI, you need to be able to provide them with your product feed. So like your catalog, what do you have available? There are structures that these platforms like require or recommend you to include in your product feed. And the quality of your product feed is kind of, if you simplify it, it's kind of highly correlated with the probability of you being visible in top 1 position or to be visible even in the chat in the first place. And the quality and the relevance score is driven at the end of the day by basic things like, do you have well documented product attributes in your product feed? Do you has your product feed been updated in a recent time? So can we assume your stock levels and availability details are truthful? So kind of the relevance is driven by things that you would probably want to anyhow do. So have a well-structured, categorized, taxonomically structured catalog with up-to-date availabilities and stock levels, so that these different providers who at the end of the day want to protect their own users by making sure that they get a very good experience inside their AI platform, they probably rank you more highly as relevance if you have frequently updated, well-structured product feeds. And that's where platforms like Shopify and Twice Commerce come into play, because that's kind of the core job that we also help you to do, to kind of maintain your commerce data in a well-structured way with well categorized and well taxonomically well structured patterns. So even though it's a black box and it's early days, I would say that every merchant can already start doing these things that benefits them anyhow in other channels that they might want to be visible in.
Do you see that it's already a good idea to be there? I mean, it's beginning. I have no data, or I don't think anybody has any data, at least publicly available. Like, are people actually engaging this? I think it's currently only available in US, but is it something that you already want to kind of be on top of this new sales channel?
Yeah, I would like, as an average merchant, an average, I'm gonna like, let's assume you do like $400,000 in revenue. I think you probably have other levers to pull where you can have bigger business impact. So I wouldn't maybe allocate 3 days a week trying to, figure this out. But maybe it's more of like, how do I future-proof my current operation to the point when the agentic commerce is not like inside US experiment with some of the largest Shopify merchants or some of the largest platforms, but it becomes more common among as a commerce pattern. And there might be like other AI platforms would be adopting, for example, the Agentic Commerce Protocol by Stripe and OpenAI. So what are the actual actions there is that, well, you probably want to make sure that where you host your offering and your catalog and your pricing and all of these things is on top of a solution that either is already taking this into account or is clearly built in a future proof for that world. Shopify is a great example. Shopify is kind of leading the efforts here, or part of the kind of key partners that OpenAI works with. At Twice, we do a lot related to that. There's a lot of reasons why we've packaged our catalog management and kind of inventory management in the way we have why we have automatic taxonomical categorization of your items and your listings, and why do we support cross sales channel listings and all of these things. So maybe those are kind of the things that you can already make sure that you're doing. And even though you wouldn't yet use a commerce operating system, maybe you have like more of like a booking widget or more or something more vertical, making sure that you have if not in that platform, then somewhere else you have a view to your offering and inventory in a structured way that when you want, you can kind of generate a product feed out of it or something else. But I think it's like the easiest way would be to just like make sure that you spend that extra time in data structure and quality, and that probably becomes easier if you work with platforms like Twice Commerce or Shopify or maybe Wix Commerce, where the platform kind of guides you a bit there and helps you to do that job.
If I understood it correctly, like now it might not be the time where you go all in on this new sales channel, but you want to make sure that your infrastructure and everything is in a correct place, that when it kind of becomes a thing, it's more like maybe it's built into these commerce platforms like Twice, that, hey, if you have everything in right order, it's basically just going to show up there whenever the whole world kind of opens to new platforms and all of these. And at that point, you don't have to think about, hey, do I need to switch commerce OS or commerce platform in order to be here? But you want to already make sure that it's ready for that world.
Yeah, I think that would be the practical way to think about it. And maybe it never as a merchant hurts to test or somehow try out those purchasing experiences. yourself, just like benchmarking, to have the mental idea in your head, like into what direction might the market go. So if you can access it already as a user in ChatGPT or just looking at some demos or similar, and think how might your products be visible there in their current state. And it might be even, you might even consider, is it worthwhile to tweak your offering a bit in order to be visible there? But yeah, that's like just like staying on tune on how people buy stuff is probably a good investment of time.
For example, in Twice, what are like the concrete things that you can do as a merchant to be ready in this world? You mentioned, for example, the taxonomy.
Yeah, I think the concrete things that you can do in our platform, especially the new one that we have, is that you can, for every stock item that you have, you can kind of categorize them with taxonomy. So you can say, what is it? Based on that, we already recommend certain attributes to fill in, which might be things like brand, color, patterns, all of these like attribute fields that are used by other platforms to do a better job in talking with the end customer or categorizing your products to the right place when the customers provide some filtering that they want to have. Similar things happens with your listings. So in your inventory side, your stock items, you want to categorize them as closely as possible. But with your listings, there's a similar job to be done. There's maybe just a bit different kind of information included. So you have more kind of a product listing description texts and more of like commercial text that, again, these other platforms would use as they analyze your product feeds. So making sure that you have a well-structured approach to your inventory and catalog management, and you have these attributes listed out. Gladly, many platforms like Shopify and Twice already have built-in AI help here that recommend what to store and might even automatically create these. So instead of you spending hours manually updating stuff, you can just like ask the AI to fill in this information, and then you can maybe spend 1 hour reviewing it or similar. And so those are concrete things that you can already do. And maybe I mentioned the kind of relevance score inside this platform. So making sure you have kind of real-time availability built into your catalogs. This is extremely relevant for booking-driven businesses. So making sure that your catalog is already connected to your assets in a way that you are always able to say at any given time point whether something's available or not and for what price. That's the kind of challenging part that we, for example, help with that platforms like Shopify do not do. So this like temporal availability is super helpful. So then it's easier for you to create listings that you make available for different sales channels with the knowledge that that sales channel will always have the knowledge when and what is available. Kind of the key criteria, again, for a good user experience that these platforms usually are trying to drive for. So good inventory, good catalog data, and making sure these are connected in a smart way so you have real-time availability always available.
Probably in the availability side, you probably don't list all the times that things are available, but you want to give the AI easy access to, for example, some API endpoint where they can do the query.
Yeah, that's kind of usually then the platform shop like ours that we either provide, or usually both provide, a API connection where a platform or third-party service can query these availabilities so that they can render the offering and the availabilities of that offering. And we provide like out-of-a-box API connection for that. Another one might be that platforms like us, we try to kind of package those availabilities with according to some of the most popular product feeds. So something like Google products or this OpenAI product feed where they assume certain structure, which in many cases hasn't necessarily yet been built for example, booking kind of products. So that's where platforms like us might do some trickeries in kind of translating a bookable offering to fit a purchasable product feed, if that makes sense. And that demands a bit of a magic usually, or like understanding of both worlds in order to be able to kind of translate it to the same language and to enable still like smooth user experiences. Companies like Google already started to have booking related product feeds a while ago, I think, but those have been mainly targeted for things like restaurant tables or hotels, but those can be utilized in also like services like rentals. But this is probably one of the places where Twice Commerce can do a lot of value to the whole ecosystem by being almost like a translator between these temporal catalogs and more linear product feeds.
How do you see overall like the agentic commerce and re-commerce, like how do they actually fit together? Because most likely it's again maybe easier to go with like standardized products where the AI might understand that this is the same product available in 5 different stores, and then it uses some type of logic to maybe recommend those. But when we go to, let's say, resales where every item is unique, or rentals where there is the availability and so on, and what comes to my mind is like a lot of demos that ChatGPT or almost any of the AI providers, they are a lot actually related to like traveling and like these booking type of things, like, hey, I'm going there, can you give me some suggestions, and maybe flights or anything like that. So how does these worlds kind of work together in the future?
I think it works great, and probably the reason why many of the AI demos are built around things like traveling and such is that booking and buying those is kind of a hassle. There's a lot of researching, whether it's where to go in the first place or what to do in that place, in order to make the decision, like what flight to book or what transportation to book and what hotel to book, what's close to that thing that I decided that I wanted to do, and all of these things. So, and a lot of these similar hassles are present in resales, like buying secondhand goods or buying like a vintage thing or a collectible. I have 5 different options for this vinyl record. The one is a little bit worse shape when it comes to the packaging, but the vinyl is prestige, but it's in Germany. The other one is in Sweden, or this is in the same state that I am in, and then like, do I want to pay $20 for shipping just to get this? And this is like things that you evaluate, and you would probably be. You can get a great experience going through this evaluation with a AI agent, with you can have a more natural discussion on your preferences, rather than going to 6 different destination sites or kind of resale sites and trying to filter out the options and doing your own research. So I think there's a lot of nice synergies with agentic commerce and buying secondhand or refurbished or collectibles or all of these things. In order for all of these to come into play, it just demands that platforms like Twice Commerce makes it so that we can provide those product feeds to the AI, the agentic commerce flows. And I think it's actually a lot on our shoulders to make that easier. So I think it's a extremely relevant and big sales channel for resales and re-commerce in the future.
I can see that, and maybe from buyer's perspective, if there is a lot of data for the AI, it kind of like combines these filtering capabilities, because I think almost anybody who has tried to purchase something used and they go to multiple websites, they're like, why are the filters not talking the same language? Like, what does this mean in this platform, and on this platform it might be like different conditions and anything like that, and try to kind of align those. But when AI just has hopefully a lot of these attributes and descriptions and images that it might be able to analyze and so on, it might kind of take these things from different sellers and kind of put them in a same line where it's easier for you or the AI to actually compare those.
Yeah, definitely. But that's the cool stuff, I think, in like looking at the market, like in general, there's more and more of commerce tools for e-commerce. You have like full-blown operating systems like Twice, and then you have more special use cases there. But all of these players are the key technology enablers for the overall e-commerce market to grow and be more enjoyable commerce experience for all sides of the table. But yeah, so that's kind of the cool stuff that is happening there. I think many merchants can kind of just make sure that, all right, that they're aware of these platforms and they kind of play with the appropriate platforms, so to say. And then I think the technology providers like Twice Commerce will do a lot of the heavy lifting for the market. And thus kind of like, well, at the end of that, we're super excited inside and on a lot of the things that we're implementing and doing right now in this kind of context. And a lot of that work is at the end of the day super fundamental stuff, like making sure that data is well structured. And but then the outcomes of that is extremely cool when you connect that to AI agents and allow them to do the stuff that they do well that small companies cannot really replicate.
Absolutely, and maybe personal experience with AI agents, not related to commerce, but when I'm using or building AI agents that are basically using some data to do some actions or some output, I've noticed that it's like all about like how you actually structure the original data, like where is the source of truth, how much data do you have available there, because the AI agents are kind of evolving all the time, and if you have that source of truth really in a right order, it's super easy to use that data and spin it out in with different AIs and so on. But whenever you are kind of, let's say like trying, in my case, some type of agent builder, which kind of tells me what to input there, and then it's able to spin it out. But what if I want to do something after in 2 weeks with some other AI? I'm not maybe able to use it, or it's in a wrong structure or anything like that. So at least I have kind of like come to the place that I'm using Notion as my source of truth, and it has like so much data that I'm able to kind of put there, for example, per content piece, and then I'm able to use that data with different agents and spin out different type of content super easily. I think it's going to be more and more relevant, like how is the actual data structured, how much do you have attributes and all of these available there, which agents and AI are able to reuse, and maybe whenever there is some new feature on their end, they are automatically able to use that data already, and you don't have to kind of manually do something to give that data to the AI.
100%. I think you're kind of hitting the nail with the hammer there, and it's like, I think we were for a while in a market where there was a lot of value to be built in having like specialized UIs or specialized like software flows for something. Now it's probably more relevant that you have well-structured, good, in our case, product databases and inventory databases with extreme flexibility when it comes to what you want to store there. It might not be only you who's controlling some of the attributes. You might want some kind of a partner to control some of the attributes, like doing product appraisal stuff and so on. But the key thing being that the one thing that you want to protect is that you have well-structured, good data that is easily shareable for specialized, like general purpose language models or AI platforms and specialized platforms. And we often talk about APIs, but then nowadays you can kind of wrapping your APIs around MCP, so model context protocols, is kind of the assumption that in that general purpose language model or specialized AI platform, you want to provide access to this data in a nice, controlled and understandable way, and you need to have well done documentation and all of these to power these models to their maximum. So, but I think this is like a more mature phase again. Like it's logical that the market matures and kind of starts to figure out how they want to utilize technologies. And I think this is something that is long lasting in that sense that data modeling and all of that is the place where you create a lot of value. And then there are companies that do general purpose AI platforms like OpenAI. Those demand trillions probably to be good at what they do. It's almost like they are the giants. But then we will probably see more and more of these like smaller AI platforms that specialize in a job, but still it's like an AI workflow and not like a vertical SaaS. What used to be the cool thing for, I don't know, 2010 to 20.
So it sounds like the best thing a merchant can do now is kind of make sure that the data is in a good place and ordered, and maybe even add more attributes and more data. And that might actually be like a competitive advantage, is like how well documented your catalog and inventory are. Like if you have 30 attributes per product or per listing or per inventory and your competitor has only 5, you actually provide more data that the AI can utilize when it's trying to understand what the buyer is looking for.
Yes. The only thing that I'd add there is that it might be a worthwhile exercise to simplify. I think in the world of e-commerce, there's a lot of offerings that are very complex at the end of the day. It's like this thing, like rental on Tuesday costs $20, on Wednesday $15, on Thursdays after 5 it costs $13 because of something and something. So, and there's probably good reasons why your offering has become more complex due to those reasons. And platforms like Twice Commerce have enable you to host those kind of offerings. But when it comes to these sales channels, these kind of agentic sales channels, when you create listings that are visible there, it probably is worthwhile to have those pricings quite simple. Because then at the end of the day, your sales job is done by an agent, and maybe these kind of all of these protocols that need to be connected, and they might be optimized for linear commerce. If you're more simple in your offering, it probably improves the quality of the experience on the other side. So like I would encourage merchants to figure out what would be the most simplified, for example, pricing model that they would host in these channels. I'm a big believer in general that simple is beautiful. So also in pricing and offering, but I think that might correlate well with also your chances of being visible in this Booking or other platforms that at the end of the day are in the business of providing easy, fast experiences for their customers, and simple pricing makes that easier job for them.
Okay. That's a really, really good tip, and hopefully we'll get some feedback from our merchant. How is it working? Is it more data or less data, simpler data, or more complex data that you want to actually provide for the language models and AI? But hey, Tuomo, thank you once again for all the great insights, and this is probably a space where we're gonna talk a lot about in the future, because a lot of things are in motion currently in the agentic commerce side.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Recommerce Podcast. This podcast is produced by me, Karri Hiekkanen. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen podcasts. If you like it, please remember to share and leave us a review on Apple Podcast, or like and subscribe on YouTube. See you next time.